Hello and welcome back to Heroes on Fire. As you can see, this is still round one brackets. We're going into the second game of Twisted Fusion versus Dominaticus eSports. So let's get rid of the bracket and go into the draft. Now, last game, Zeratul was second ban, with Stitches being first ban, and again here we have Stitches banned, but instead of Zeratul we have Brightwing banned.
So I guess this is obviously Brightwing is a strong hero, undeniably, but in part this is probably a respect ban for Zafman's Brightwing.
Yeah, because it
Obviously,
was very good in that last game.
there's a lot of strong polymorphs and Emerald Winds, and I guess they just don't want to face that this time, which is fair
And
enough.
making note that this is Haunted Mines, and Brightwing is probably the strongest support for this map, simply because she can die quite happily and then just Zed straight back into the mines to help her team instantly.
And
Very strong hero for this map.
she's strong at the sort of multitasking that can be very strong. She can be in the mines helping out, and then she can immediately be out helping the person who's trying to take the bruises afterwards, or
Yeah.
your camp. Plus, the power of bribe on this map is actually quite strong, despite the fact that there aren't many mercenary camps.
Yeah.
If you can quickly nip in and bribe the enemy siege giants, they can do a lot of work.
Oh,
Not just because they're now pushing for you, but because your opponent can't use them to defend from your golem. So it's this massive swing.
So we had a first ban Brightwing, second ban Stitches, as is the case. You normally, as we explained last draft, ban out anything but Stitches, so then your opponent's forced to ban the Stitches,
Pretty
or
much.
you get to pick the Stitches first. Zeratul was a first pick by Dominaticus. Now, it was banned last game, so obviously these teams do prioritise Zeratul quite highly.
Hmm.
Which is pretty interesting, since I'd imagine it'd be much more important on Cursed Hollow, since they have bosses you can steal with Void Prism and things like that.
But that's part of the difference between NA and EU. In that, at the moment, one of the differences is that in EU, Zeratul is much more highly prioritized, whereas in NA they favour the Kerrigan.
Yes, which I like to see Kerrigan players. I think they're normally bigger and more flamboyant, but Zeratul is a very, very difficult assassin to play fantastically well, as we'll hopefully see. Now, first picks from Twisted Fusion, Tassadar Uther. Tassadar's been, despite his Sonic Storm nerfs, has been seeing a lot of priority. He's been very, very heavily favoured by lots of teams, well, basically all teams I've seen, and then picking the Uther, the second strongest support in general, maybe even strongest with the Brightwing, but on this map, Brightwing is particularly strong, so picking up that very strong support in the form of the Uther.
And I think one of the things for Tassadar that's kept him so strong is the fact that it's not his numbers aren't the problem. He's not strong because of his numbers. He's strong just because of what his kit does.
Yes.
And they haven't changed that. They haven't been changing that. They've just been tweaking his numbers. But so he's still strong. He's no longer ridiculous, which is okay. But he's still very, very strong.
Then Dominaticus picked up the Vala and the Arthas. Dominaticus taking the Arthas away from Jamaru, who had it last game. Vala, again, just being a particularly strong assassin. Fantastic. Not much more needs to be said about that.
Same logic for Tychus. He's just a strong assassin. Pretty rare to not see him and Vala in a game somewhere.
Yeah. And then, oddly, Twisted Fusion's fourth pick was that Hammer.
Someone that you don't usually see that often on maps that aren't Dragonshire, at least until recently. I think teams are starting to figure out that Hammer actually just does a lot of damage.
Yeah, she's very strong. I'm a big fan of Hammer. I enjoy playing her, especially with the Napalm Strike being
And
what
you
it
get
is.
and one of her big downsides is the fact that because she doesn't have a proper mount ability, yes, her speed boost can get her from point A to point B quite fast, so long as they're pretty close together. When you have larger maps, she just can't roam from objective to objective as fast as a lot of other heroes can. However, this being Haunted Mines, it's quite a small map, so that's somewhat negated. You don't need to travel that far.
Disregarding the size of the mines underneath, and even then the mines are quite small. They're much smaller
Yeah.
than they used to be, anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, she can be very good on this, especially since there are two lanes as well. So you siege one out, you take one down. That's half of the map that you're effectively pushing there. Last two picks from Dominaticus was an unusual two really, with the Rhaegar and Tyrande. Now we'll normally see Tyrande as a response to like a gazebo for that long range stun, those sorts of things, and Rhaegar. Normally, most recently I've seen Rhaegar picked up with heavy dive lineups like Tyrael and Anubarak, things that one hero will go in, all the damage will be focused on them, and then boom, ancestral healing back up to full. But they don't really have that hero in this case, do they?
So it'll be interesting to see. It's definitely going to be an ancestral healing. This definitely isn't a bloodlust lineup,
No.
which is a shame as much as I love to see one.
Yeah, Twisted Fusion took the Tychus for the Odin and the Archon on the Tassadar for the ideal Bloodlust lineup.
So maybe Dominaticus. Oh no, this was the last two picks, wasn't it? I was about to say
Yes.
maybe they took the Rhaegar to stop the Bloodlust, but no, that's not the case, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then last pick from Twisted Fusion, the Muradin. He's quite widely seen at the moment as kind of probably the third best dedicated tank behind the Stitches and the Arthurs. So it's good to see him. He stuns, he lockdowns, he slows. He's very, very tanky. Great to see. So yeah, let's get into the game. And now here we are on Haunted Mines. We're going to have ODK, their support player on the Reyna for Dominaticus eSports on the left, the blue team here. We've got Tobsus on the Zeratul. Now he was playing the Thrall last game, so he's a melee assassin. We've got Erinth, their tank, on the Arthas. CJ on the Vala, who was on the Tychus last game. And then Alex on the Tyrande, which is quite an interesting pick.
Then over on Twisted Fusion, we have Zafman playing the Uther, we have Azul's playing the Hammer, we have Jamaru on the Tassadar, on Tychus we have Weezer, and then we have on the Muradin Varakai. And something I spot immediately slightly odd about Twisted Fusion is that last game Weezer was their Tassadar player. However, this time we have Jamaru on it instead, so
I mean,
it's interesting to see.
Jamaru was their Arthas player last time, with Varakai being their main tank. Again, Varakai's their main tank, but now that they have like a second tank, I'd imagine it's just that Jamaru is a lot more confident on Tassadar than he is on Tychus, so Weezer's taken up the Tychus role.
Alright, now we see Dominaticus has rotated 4 down to the bottom lane, looking to pick up a kill. They go on the Muradin, maybe not the best person to go in on. Oh, and in fact they get a return kill on the Arthas. That did not quite work out for them.
Not even a return, that was a 1-for-0 there. Now,
indeed, yeah.
The reason they've rotated 4 to the bottom to counter the 4 of Twisted Fusion is the fact that they do have Azuls on that Sergeant Hammer. Normally you'll go for 4 heroes pushing your lane where the Golem spawns, and Twisted Fusion is going to be the bottom lane, as you can see from the gravestones on the minimap there. But because Twisted Fusion have a much heavier push lineup with the Hammer, Varakai getting caught out a little bit.
Oh, but the increased range on that leap from the most recent patch makes you go so far.
Yes.
Makes it a lot easier to get out of those sorts of situations. But they're getting some really heavy push with this Hammer, and there's not a lot they can do about it, even with the 4 here.
Lovely little Z dash away from the arrow. Now with Hammer, when you siege up, it takes a short wind-up time, and then you siege up. But and if you want to unsiege, you just hit E again.
Oh, there's a stun, catches Weezer, but he gets away in time. Varakai's a little bit out of position, but I'm presuming he's just going to be able to leap out when the time comes, so he's alright for the time being. No kills achieved there in that little clash.
The Uther, a large amount of burst healing there. Now they've got their main support on the Rhaegar up in top lane. But yeah, like I was saying, with Sergeant Hammer, if you hit E...
Twisted Fusion have set up a trap in the bottom, and they managed to get a very fast kill off the Zeratul before he can
stun from Zafman.
React to that.
Very well done.
That's going to give them a good advantage in this first Mines, which usually the first objective in most of these maps is not tremendously important, but that is absolutely not the case for the Mines. The first Mines can have a massive impact on the game. Oh, and they chain stuns on the Arthas. Muradin body blocks to stop him getting away.
Beautiful
and he
body
goes
block
down
by
as well.
Varakai.
Fantastic.
CJ being a bit risky here. Looks like he might get caught out.
If they get a stun with the
good
Muradin.
vault.
Ooh, fantastic. Voltage to the side, not away, predicting what the Muradin was going to do. And he should get away.
Yeah, he should just back out. We've got ODK up here on the Rhaegar, just taking some more skulls. Trying to not have a huge deficit. Ooh, missed a kill on the Vala.
Ooh, and the Rhaegar ends up in a bad position, walks into the Muradin as he was fleeing, and he got picked off. Unfortunate for him. Maybe should have been a little bit more aware of where the other fights were going on.
Yeah, with Sergeant Hammer's siege mode, as I was saying, you can hit E again and she'll have a small wind down back into tank mode. Or if you hit her mount ability, Z, you instantly get out of siege mode and start to fly away, so it can be useful, quite heavily useful for getting out of tight situations quickly.
And we've got Dominaticus is taking the bruises in the middle. As you often tend to see, the team that doesn't do quite so well in the first Mines tends to just back out and say, okay, you've got this one, but we're going to take camps to try and even up that advantage.
And it is a large advantage for Twisted Fusion here. They have a 75 skull to the 25. That's 3 times as strong.
There's a rotation down to pick off the hammer. He was a bit too far forward all on his own there, so that was easy to clean up for Dominaticus.
Yeah. With the hammer down, their push might not be quite as strong, but I'd imagine that Dominaticus are going to have to defend. Especially because the golem is so big.
Your golem is stronger than
Did you notice Zafman not quite taking the golems? You've got to wait until the golem of the enemy's team is just to their front walls or just past their first fort. Then you can pick up your giants, and it'll mean that they'll sit quite happily behind the wall and defend against the golem. It was taken a little bit earlier for Team Dominaticus here, so their giants are taking some damage.
We see we've got everyone pushing with the golem down bottom for Twisted Fusion, with the exception of Tassadar, who's up top defending, because he can do a lot of damage to that golem. And of course, he can shield up the towers so they don't take as much damage. So they're going to take very, very little damage from their golem at all. Whereas the red golem is doing serious work to that fort.
Grey Golem at top is down. Nazul's is just sieging up and damaging the fort from range. First fort down, that's a very hefty experience lead.
In fact, even though it's 5v4 down in the bottom lane, they are really managing to push Dominaticus back and in fact get a kill on the Rhaegar, and if the rest of the team isn't careful, one of them may follow suit, but not quite. They all decide to back off. Smart decision. Re-engage again once there's more towers.
If they keep pushing with this golem, if they get these 2 towers, they might even hit level 10, which means they can stick for a fight, but no, they'll get the 1 tower, the golem will die and they'll back off.
They take the advantage and go, okay, we'll push it later. Play safe.
Meanwhile, the golems up top are still alive, and Jamara is just quite happy pushing those.
Defended the golem from the Grave Golem, and is now in fact able to just carry on pushing, especially with the rotation of other team members up the top as well. They're easily able to get the towers there.
Because of how weak the Grave Golem was up top, they've actually done way more damage to top lane than the Grave Golem itself did.
And to be honest, with the 2-level advantage, including level 10, they can just take this fight happily, no worries at all. They dive in, the Rhaegar's blown up immediately. There's a lot of focus going down on the Muradin, but he doesn't care. He can take damage for days.
He avatared for more health. He gets a shield from the Tassadar, heals from Uther.
And they should be able to get this fort without a problem and then just back off and take the mines when they next appear.
Now, looking at the talents here, we have the usual on Uther. We've got Conjurer's Pursuit into Protective Shield with Clairvoyance, which is a little odd for this map. It's not that big, so you don't really need to wonder where the opponents are unless they're taking bruises, but it should be relatively obvious if they are. And then, quite clearly, the Divine Storm, the obvious one.
And I'm a big fan against Arthas of taking Cleanse, because of the 1 second immunity to CC that's provided by Cleanse in addition to removing it. If someone's being slowed by Arthas and is unable to get away, you can cleanse them and they can walk straight out of his area.
Not only that, but they have the Zeratul Slow, they have Tyrande Stun, and eventually, if level 16 is reached by Dominaticus, they'll have a route they could
Arthas
potentially have.
Arthas only just managed to get away from that one. There was a very, very quick Howling Blast on the Uther as he came in to stun him.
Yes.
And I think that was the only reason he was able to get away from that one.
Other than that, we see Mule on the Tassadar. He is going for that full kind of extra support. He has taken Healing Ward, and then the Mule, very, very strong on this map. If you don't kill the core, it'll come up to full, regardless of what size golem you've got. Now, Dominaticus has just positioned themselves nicely in the mines, but Twisted Fusion kind of come in and push them away. They don't really want to take a fight, Dominaticus, since they're still not 10 at this point.
And that's a very hard disadvantage to fight with when you're below level 10. Definitely the toughest of them all. And see, they're just having to back away at the sight of enemy team members all the time. Although they've decided to try and take this one, since they're 4v3 for the time being, with the 5th coming in from the side. Zeratul manages to catch the Sergeant Hammer, doing a lot of damage to him, but a lot of Twisted Fusion is pretty low at the moment. This is probably not a good fight for them to be taking. Twisted Fusion? No, I mean Dominaticus. I got the colours the wrong way around.
With 3 heroes cleaned up, that
Zeratul
is
down as well. They're going to be able to clean up the
promising.
rest of this mines without a lot of contesting being possible.
Zafman taking this last little guy down here, Muradin and Tychus in the form of Weezer and Varakai taking this
Now,
last guy.
if they manage to get the full 81 Skull Golem that's possible for them here, which I think is very likely, then it could spell the end of this game, because that's a very hard golem to defend against, especially when you're 3 levels down.
They almost took the keep's walls and both towers, with just a 75 skull golem. So this 81 skull golem and the next talent point advantage with reaching level 13 is going to be a tough position for Dominaticus to come back from.
Ooh, Clairvoyance has scouted that they are doing bruises in middle, but they won't be able to get there in time to contest. But they might look to try and pick someone off because they're all heading towards the mid. But no, everyone on Dominaticus has just backed off straight away. They know what's happening. They can see the Clairvoyance. They know it's not safe to stay.
It almost looked as if Twisted Fusion were going to defend against the golem this time, but they have rotated bottom. They will probably push.
And we're not even seeing the Tassadar stay to defend this time. They're going all 5 bottom. They want to make some serious damage come out of this golem, and that's not going to be hard to do.
Level 13 talent Twisted Fusion. Arthas has taken Sprint. Hammer has taken the Spider-Mine's Knockback. It's a very, very useful ability. Interesting, Tassadar took Distortion Beam.
Different to last game.
Yeah. Tyker's taken the Relentless. Doesn't want to be caught out by the Arthas stun for too long. Syndra Ghosta picked up. Wow, didn't even notice
manages
that.
to catch the whole team with it as well. So they're not going to be able to run away too well. The slow has run out. They're just backing off.
Beautiful Divine Storm by Uther
Load
there.
up, catches 2 there. That's a full wipe. This is going to be the end.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's a very, very fast game number 2 here. Twisted Fusion asserting their dominance, moving through to the next round after this very clean best of 3. Would like to bring up the healing and just show Zafman and the Tassadar, in fact, having done more than Zafman on his Uther.
Interesting to see a Tyrant has out-healed the Rhaegar as well. That is not something you see too often.
Ancestral healing was picked up, but was never even used that game. God. 75 and 81 Golem, pushing in, winning very quickly, 10.5-minute victory. Well
really
done,
shows
Twisted
the
Fusion.
power of a one-sided Golem on this map.
Yeah. Interestingly, Dominaticus did pick that map, so maybe they thought they could win it, maybe they thought it was good for them, but no, it was a strong draft from Twisted Fusion. Admittedly, I thought Dominaticus was stronger in game number 1, but Twisted Fusion proved me wrong in that regard. And yeah, they move through in the winners bracket, whilst Dominaticus go down to the lower bracket.
Twisted Fusion are looking good, and I look forward to seeing what they bring in future rounds.
Yes.
Very excited.
So, thanks for watching this best of 3. If you would like to see more of the tournament, subscribe. Videos will be uploaded very shortly. Thanks for watching, and until next time.